Don't go away. Our feature film will begin shortly.
Hastings Mystery Theater. We are just a little fish in a big pond. So please, give us a thumbs up, share this video, comment and subscribe. Now, here's Randall Schaefer.
Good evening. Welcome to Hastings Mystery Theater. I'm your host and mystery master, Randall Schaefer. Tonight, the corridors of mystery take us to 1947 for an international film's release, The Phantom Shot. A British country gentleman is murdered, and all who knew him had motive to kill him. Inspector Webb is in charge. He questions the suspects, and his thoughts about the case are communicated to us via a voiceover, so we know what he's thinking. This is not a new technique for films, but it's probably not been used often as effectively as it is here tonight's movie. Our star is Jon Stewart. He was born in Edinburgh in 1898, and he began his movie career at age 22. His last movie was in 1978. It was Superman. This is impressive 58 years of making movies. Jon Stewart died in 1979 at age 81. UK films were not as prolific or as well funded as American films, so you probably never heard of any of Jon Stewart's movies or any of his co-stars. Maybe this one. Our co-star tonight is H. Marion Crawford, one of UK's best character actors. He is best remembered for playing Dr. Watson in the 1954 British TV series Sherlock Holmes. Earlier in his career, he played Sherlock himself in a radio series. He's just one of a few actors to have the honor of playing both Holmes and Watson. Let's return to 1947 and enjoy The Phantom Shot.
Mr. Jones!
Now what?
Look! There!
Looks like murder. Come on! 9.
Detective Inspector Webb, Divisional Headquarters.
Temple Manor? Yes. Yes, got that. All right. Tell Sergeant Clapper to meet me downstairs. We'll want the murder bag. All right, that's all I want. Let me have those fingerprints as soon as you can.
Very well. Well, I'm getting along. Nothing more for you to do here now. You must wait the result of the PM.
You're quite sure it wasn't suicide?
Absolutely.
Well, that's something anyhow. Can you give me any idea of the distance from which the shot was fired?
Impossible at this stage. The bullet went right through him.
Death was instantaneous.
I should say yes. He must have died within a few seconds. Looks as if it's not going to be an easy case, Inspector.
It is a bit involved.
Well, I'm off. Leave you to it. Good luck.
Thanks, Doc. Now I wonder. It's an idea. It'd be a bit different, too. Yes, why not? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to invite you to join me in this investigation and see if you can be as observant as we have to be. Remember, it's the tiny details that often count more than the obvious ones. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you exactly what we've found out so far. The door was locked from the inside, so we had to pick the lock. The victim, Caleb Horder, had been shot through the chest. No bullet has been found yet, no weapon, and nothing appears to have been stolen. The dead man's wristwatch was broken, and it had stopped at 1 o'clock, and the doctor confirms this was the approximate time of death. There are 2 windows in this room, and both of them were closed. This one was fastened, but the other one was not. It is a heavy window, but it opens quite easily. It rained very heavily in the night, so footprints show very clearly. Those, of course, belong to the milkman and his boy. We've examined them already. You'll notice it's a wide bed. Too wide for anyone to jump over. Unless, of course, he were an athlete. We found no clues of any value on the lawn here. But about 12 yards from that window, near this tree on that border, we found some footprints. Obviously made by gumboots. Now here, on this gravel path, we found a shotgun cartridge, newly fired. But Caleb Horder was killed by a rifle bullet. Our next clue was rather odd. Here it is, and I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions. Now you know as much as I do, so from now on we start level. I think this is going to be a very interesting case.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, what is this, Sergeant Clapper?
I found this, sir, in the armchair in the study. Must have slipped down behind the cushions. Got initials on it, sir.
PG. Anything else?
Yes, sir, there's an old army rifle.
Oh, where'd you find it?
In the kitchen, sir.
In the kitchen. That's a funny place to keep it.
Yes.
Has fingerprints examined it?
Yes, sir. Nothing but glove marks. But it's been cleaned recently.
Oh.
Big one, sir? Yes, that's what I thought, too, sir.
I'll have a look at that gun right away.
This way, sir. Mrs. Lucy, sir. Seemed a bit frightened when I spoke to her earlier on.
There's nothing to be afraid of, Lucy. Is there, Sergeant?
No, of course not, sir.
Now tell me, Lucy, how long have you been here?
About 3 weeks.
How did you get on with Mr. Horder?
I'd rather not say.
I'm afraid you must. Weren't you happy here?
No.
Why not? Was it Mr. Horder? Didn't you like him?
No, I hated him.
Why?
Because he... Oh, it was all so terrible.
Now, don't upset yourself, Lucy. You must help us all you can. When did you last see him?
Last night.
Where?
In here.
And you didn't see him again?
No.
Now, you're quite sure?
No. Yes.
All right, Lizzie. I'll talk to you again later. Now go and tell Mrs. Robson I'd like to speak to her.
Nice girl, that. I don't think she did it.
Oh, why?
She's frightened of her own shadow.
Yeah, she seemed frightened of Horder, too. Now, where's that gun?
Behind you, sir.
Oh, yes. Well, I'll have a look at that later. Now, what about the rest of the household? Have you got them all lined up?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Now, first there's Mrs. Robson, that's the dead man's sister. Keeps house for him. Did. Then there's her son, that's Peter Robson. Oh, he was away last night, sir, and he hasn't got back yet.
Oh?
Oh, by the way, sir, I got a photograph here. I found it in his room. Taken when he was up in Cambridge.
Quite an athlete.
Yes. Got in some trouble when he was up there, sir. Sent down.
That doesn't mean anything. I was nearly sent down myself.
Quite so, sir. Oh, and then there's the stepdaughter, sir, Miss Ann Horder. That's a lot.
No PG.
Not as yet, sir.
Well, as far as we know, any of them may have done it.
You think it's an inside job, sir?
On the contrary, I think it's an outside job. Mrs. Robson?
Good morning, Inspector.
Good morning. I appreciate how you must be feeling, Mrs. Robson, but there are one or two questions, if it wouldn't...
Quite understand.
Thank you. All right, Captain.
Right.
Now, Miss Robson, when did you last see your brother alive?
Last night.
Where?
Here, in this kitchen. He came in for his usual cup of tea before going to his study. He did that every night.
Do you know if he ever locked his door?
Oh, yes, he always did.
I see. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do sit down. Did he seem quite normal last night?
Yes, I think so.
I'm told that he wasn't very, popular.
He was a little eccentric. He needed understanding.
Now, this telephone. Do you know if anyone used it last night?
My niece. I remember there was a wrong number.
No one else?
Not so far as I know.
I see the extension goes through to the study. Do you know if Mr. Horder had any calls in there?
Oh, I shouldn't think so. He hated being disturbed in the evening. He had all the calls put through here.
How long have you and your son lived here, Mrs. Robson?
Since my husband died. I hadn't any money. He offered us both a home. I was very grateful.
This is your son?
Yes.
He was away last night. Do you know where he was?
No, but he probably decided to stay with friends. It was such a bad night.
Oh, I see. But didn't he telephone?
No. Well, if he did, perhaps we didn't hear it. Because of the thunder.
Then you haven't seen or heard of him since he left the house last night?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Uncle.
Oh, that's all right.
This is my niece, Inspector.
Oh, how do you do, Miss Horder? I'm Inspector Webb. I'd like to have a little talk with you.
Certainly.
Would you mind waiting in the study? I won't be long.
Why, yes, of course.
Bit of a shock for her, all this.
I'm afraid she's terribly upset, poor girl.
Yes, naturally. Now, your maid, Lucy. She tells me she's been here only about 3 weeks.
That's right.
Do you change your servants very often?
I'm afraid we did. My brother was very exacting.
Now, about the garden. Do you have a lot of ground here? Did you manage it yourself, or did your brother employ a gardener?
He used to, but the last man left some time ago.
Can you tell me anything about this garden?
It was my brother's. It's been here for years.
I see it's been cleaned recently.
It was always kept clean. My brother insisted.
Did he clean it himself?
No, my son always did that.
I see. Now, about last night, Mrs. Robson, did anything unusual happen?
No, I don't think so. Yes, there was something.
Well?
Well, I'd been out in the garden. I came in here and found my niece and Lucy making tea.
Hello, Auntie. Tired?
A little.
It's too much for you, know, the garden as well as the house.
Oh, I don't mind, dear. It keeps me occupied. Besides, I love gardening.
Hello? No, I'm sorry, it's the wrong number. I thought it might have been... Auntie, did Peter say what time he'd be back?
No, dear, he didn't.
Well, I do think he might have told me he was going out.
Oh, don't worry, dear. I'm sure he won't be long. Poor Peter. I'm afraid he's very depressed.
He's not the only one. Look at the life we all lead in this house. Oh, if only my father weren't such a...
Anne, dear, it's not like you to talk like that.
Where's Master Peter?
He's gone out, Caleb.
I'm not surprised. I didn't think he would be here.
Why, Caleb? Is anything wrong?
Anything wrong? Don't try and pretend that you don't know about Anne and your precious son. Now listen to me, young woman.
Caleb, not now.
Why not now? Let her hear. You think you're in love with this little wastrel, don't you? Well, understand this. You won't marry Peter as long as I'm alive.
But, Father,
That's enough. I'm telling you once and for all. I see my solicitor tomorrow, and unless you marry the man I choose, you won't get a penny. And as for that good-for-nothing son of yours, I've told him to get out of this house and to stay out.
Caleb!
And that's not all. The little fool's got himself into a fine mess, and now I'm being done for his debts.
Debts?
Yes, debts. And don't pretend you don't know about that. Well, my solicitor alters my will tomorrow, and if your son shows his face in my house again, I'll throw him out.
Caleb, you don't mean that.
Of course I mean it. And you too, if necessary. Lucy. Lucy! I'll have my tea in my study.
Don't worry, dear. I'll try and talk him round tomorrow.
He won't listen, Auntie. He never does. He must have his own way. There's only one thing to...
Lucy,
Yes, ma'am.
you'd better hurry up with that tea.
Just as I thought. This isn't the way to my study, Lucy. Why are you trying to avoid me? You're not afraid of me, are you?
Yes. No. Keep away. Keep away. Oh, Mrs. Robson.
Lucy, Lucy, what's the matter?
I'm so frightened.
What are you doing with this? Oh, pull yourself together, child. Come in here and tell me all about it. I took Lucy upstairs, stayed with her until she was quiet, and then I went to my room.
Did you see your niece again?
No, I went straight to bed.
Did you hear anything unusual in the night?
No, but something must have wakened me.
No? What was it, do you remember?
I only wish I could. It might help.
Well, indeed. About what time was that? Oh, you wouldn't know, of course.
Oh, yes. I remember I heard the church clock strike 1.
I see. And there's nothing else you can tell me?
No. Oh, yes. Yes, I do remember hearing a short, sharp crack.
Oh?
I thought it was thunder.
Could it have been a rifle shot?
Well, now you mention it, perhaps it could.
But didn't you go and investigate? Didn't it occur to you there might be something wrong?
No, I never thought. It was such a wild night. Shall I answer it?
Please do.
Yes? Yes? No. No, I'm sorry, I can't.
Who is that?
One of the newspapers. They've no thought for anyone's feelings.
Yes, I know. But it's their job. All of us have a job of work to do, though it is sometimes unpleasant. Well, Mrs. Robson, I think that's all.
If there's anything more I could do.
You've been most helpful. Well, I expect you'll have things to do about the house, Mrs. Robson, so don't worry about us. You just carry on.
Thank you, Inspector.
Now I'll go and have a word with your niece.
Oh, Mrs. Robson. Mrs. Robson. Has the police found out anything yet?
I don't know, Lucy. We're all being questioned.
You mean they think one of us might have done it?
I don't know what they think. But we're all under suspicion until they find who really did kill my poor brother.
Oh, Mrs. Robson, what are we going to do?
Don't worry, Lucy. You go to your room. I'll call you if I want you.
So that's all you can tell me, Miss Horner. You went up to your room and you heard nothing after that?
No, nothing.
I understand that your father locked himself in here every evening.
He always kept the door locked, whether it was in here or not.
You really mean to tell me that no one else ever came into this room? Now, surely you or your aunt or the maid at some time or other.
Only when my stepfather was around.
How about that gun? Do you know if it's been fired recently?
Oh, no, not for a long time. We had some cartridges, but they were all used.
You're sure?
Quite sure. Mr. Robson told me so himself.
What made him tell you that?
We were going target shooting one day, and he said there were no more cartridges left.
So you handle a gun?
Oh, yes. Well, we all can.
Mr. Robson was wrong. Sergeant Clapper here found this in this drawer, and it fits that gun. Now, Miss Horder, do you know if your father had any particular enemies? Was his life ever threatened at any time?
No, I don't think so.
Who is that?
Philip Graham.
Philip Graham.
Yes.
Friend of yours?
Yes.
Does he come here very often?
No, well, you see, he's only just come back from Burma.
Oh, come in, Mr. Graham.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Sit down, will you? All right, Clapper.
Right.
You know what's happened?
Yes.
Is that why you're here?
Well, yes and no.
That leg injury. War wound?
Yes.
Here's a photograph of some footprints taken in the garden. They're obviously yours. Now, Mr. Graham, why have you come here this afternoon?
He's come here to see me.
Oh, please let Mr. Graham answer my question.
It was something very personal.
Well, why did you come here last night? You did, didn't you? Now, Mr. Graham, I'm waiting.
All right, I was here last night. I was with Miss Horder in the garden.
You told me nothing of this, Miss Horder. I must warn you both, I want complete frankness.
Yes, of course. I had to see Miss Horder urgently. It was about Peter Robson. We met in the garden to talk things over. You see, Inspector, we were secretly engaged before I went overseas. I wanted her to tell Peter the truth and break off their engagement. Have you talked things over with Peter, darling?
No, not yet. I haven't had the chance. He had a terrible row with Father, rushed out of the house, and hasn't been back since.
If only you'd spoken to him yesterday, it would have made things so much easier.
Oh, Philip, you don't understand, dear.
But I do, darling. He knows you only promised to marry him when you thought I was never coming back.
Because the whole thing is so confusing, I don't know what to do about it.
Shall I tell you, darling? Come away with me and we'll get married quietly.
No, Philip, I can't do that, dear.
Why not? Don't worry about your father. I'll talk to him.
But it's not only Father I'm thinking of, it's my aunt. I don't want to hurt her.
Of course not. But I must let them know tomorrow. You see, darling, I've had the offer of that job in South America, and if you don't make up your mind, I'll have to go alone.
Oh, no, darling, don't do that. I'll talk to them tomorrow, I promise you.
All right. I'll come and see you again in the morning.
Good night, darling.
Good night. And I watched her going back to the house, and then I went off home.
I see. And you can tell me nothing more that could have a bearing on Caleb Horner's death?
Nothing.
Recognize this, Mr. Graham? It's yours, isn't it? The initials PG. How do you account for your lighter being found in this room? You've not been telling the truth, Mr. Graham.
Excuse me, sir. It's rather important. Young Robson's just turned up. He's in his room.
Hello?
No, I left his mother with him as you told me to.
I must ask you both to hold yourselves in readiness for further questioning. Look after them, Sergeant.
All right, sir.
Peter, he'll be here any moment. He's bound to question you. Where were you?
I can't tell you, Mama.
But, darling, you must. Don't you see how black things look against you?
You mean they'll think I did it?
Well, They know you quarreled with your uncle and... Oh, if only you hadn't stayed away from the house all night.
Surely you don't think I did it? You don't, do you?
When you didn't come home last night, I was so worried I didn't know what to think. Peter, were you with that girl? Tell me.
I'm sorry, Mother. I can't tell you.
But you'll have to tell the inspector.
You leave that to me. I'll be all right.
Your son, Mrs. Robson?
Yes. You didn't mind me talking to him, did you?
No, of course not.
He explained to me about last night.
I see. Well, I think you better explain to me. You mind? You know what happened here last night?
Yes?
You were away.
Yes, fortunately.
Why, fortunately?
They can't pin anything on me.
I wouldn't be too sure of that. Now tell me, where were you?
A little place called Hamley, 10 miles from here.
How did you get there, by car?
No, I went by bus. I haven't got a car.
Why did you have to go there?
I just felt like having a few drinks.
Yeah. I suppose you can produce witnesses to prove that you were there last night.
I see what you mean.
Well, I'm glad of that, Mr. Robson, because I want a full account of all your movements. And it must be the truth.
Yes, of course, only...
Well, I'm waiting.
Inspector... No, I can't, you see. It's my mother.
What do you mean?
I don't want her to know about this friend of mine.
What friend of yours?
It's a girl. You see, we love each other. I don't want her to get mixed up in this.
Oh, I understand. But I'm afraid you've got to tell me.
All right. When I got to Hamley, I went to 1 or 2 pubs, and then I went to a roadhouse. Well, it's a nightclub, really.
Name again, please.
There's a girl there. The one I told you about. She goes there evenings to play the piano.
You're looking gloomy. What's the matter?
Oh, I've had another row with my uncle. This time, I'm afraid it's the end. We had a slanging match for about half an hour, and he finished up by turning me out of the house and telling me not to come back.
It isn't anything to do with that hoarder girl, is it?
Why must you always drag her in?
Oh, I'm sorry, darling, but you are living in the same house, and she is attractive.
Told you before, she means nothing to me.
Are you telling me the truth? You know you never could resist a pretty face.
No, I admit I've been weak, but... having met you, I realize what a futile sort of life I've been leading. But now no one in the world can make me change my mind about you. I love you and I want to marry you.
And I don't have to tell you how I feel. But Peter, lately you've been so strange when we're together. Darling, what's the matter? If it isn't Anne, then what is it?
I'd rather not tell you.
Is it money? Very much?
Afraid so.
Could I help you?
It's sweet of you, Tony, but...
Oh, Peter, you know I'd do anything in the world for you. How bad are things, really?
Couldn't be worse.
Then what are you going to do?
That's what I've been asking myself all the way here. What am I going to do? It's not myself I'm worried about. It's my mother. You don't know what it's been like to have to stand by and hear her lash by that tongue of his.
You love her very much, don't you, Peter?
There's nothing I wouldn't do to help her. Nothing.
Don't look at me like that. You make me feel afraid.
I hate him.
Hastings, please. Hastings.
I had no idea it was so late. I missed the last bus. Tony, I don't suppose you could lend me your bike.
Afraid not. I shall need it myself.
Could you put me up then?
Yes, of course I can.
Do you have another?
No, thank you. Come on, we better hurry.
So So you spent the night at your friend's house. Did you telephone here?
I tried to.
What do you mean?
But it's rather odd. I got through all right, and I'm sure someone lifted the receiver, but no one answered.
About what time was that?
It was 1:45.
You're quite sure?
Yes, I remember looking at my watch.
About a quarter of an hour later, Mr. Horder was shot.
Yes, I know.
Oh, how do you know?
My mother told me. I don't know how she knew.
I told her. You realize I must question your friend. What's her name?
Tony Gibson.
Her address?
Greengates, Hamley. She lives there with her aunt.
Now, please wait here till I send for you. Good shooting.
Yes, Jackson? I made inquiries in the village and we picked up a man who wasn't at his home last night. He didn't want to talk, so I got a bit suspicious and brought him along. He's in the study now.
Good. Where's Sergeant Clapper?
He's in the dining room with Miss Horder and Mr. Graham.
I see. Well, send one of the cars over to Hamley for this young woman. There's her name and address.
Right, sir?
Let me go, I say! I won't stay here! Come along, let me go! I don't know anything about it, honest, I don't! Let me go!
What's the matter?
I didn't do it!
What's going on?
I didn't.
I was on duty outside, sir, when I saw this young woman trying to get away. I called to her and she started to run. Sir Williams and I caught her and brought her back.
It was very silly of you, Lucy. All right, Jackson, you look after this.
Right, you better get back. You stay here. Come on, Lucy.
Oh, before we go on, should we just run through the salient facts of the case so far? Now, what have we got? First of all, the footprints. Now, there were two sets, apart from those of the milkman and the milk boy. Now, the first set we're still working on. The second set, now, they were quite different. They've been proved to belong to Philip Graham, the secret lover of the dead man's daughter. Now, he was forced to admit that he was in the garden last night, but his cigarette lighter was found in the study where the murder was committed. Now, that study door was locked. The windows were closed, and there was no weapon found. But in the kitchen, you'll remember, there was a rifle from which a shot, shall we call it the phantom shot, may have been fired. I say may because there were no fingerprints, but I can leave you to draw your own conclusions. Now, you'll remember my asking Miss Horder if she could handle a rifle. What was her reply? We all can. Now, those are the clues so far. I thought we'd just run over them together, and now we'll get on with it. Oh, by the way, in crime detection, it isn't always the clues that matter. It's the persons themselves, the way they behave, how they talk, what they say, and how they say it. Now, just remember that. And now, shall we go in and see what this other fellow has to say? All right. We've met before, haven't we?
No.
Weren't you mixed up in that gamekeeper affair?
Aye, but I didn't shoot him. The police couldn't prove anything on me.
What's that in your pocket?
Which one?
That one.
I don't know how that got in there.
Come on, the other one.
Might as well have that one too.
Anything else?
No, that's everything.
What about this? Now, Angus, this cartridge was fired by that gun. Your gun. Were you in that garden last night?
Aye, I was. No getting out of that. Here. That cartridge case must have fallen through a hole in my pocket.
What were you doing out there?
I was taking a shortcut to the woods.
Did you notice if there was a light on in this room?
Aye, all the lights were on.
Was there anyone in here?
Aye.
Who was it?
That old skinflint, Caleb Horder.
Was he alone?
No, he wasn't.
Who was with him? Now, wait a minute. What time was it?
Oh, about 11 o'clock, maybe.
You can't be sure. You didn't hear the church clock?
No, I didn't. Now then, who is with him?
One young chap that's just come back from Burma.
Philip Graham?
Aye. And a fine old row they were having too. I couldn't hear what they were saying, so I went a bit closer.
Bursting in on me at this time of night. Get out. I tell you, get out.
I'll go when I've said what I came to say. Anna and I are going to get married.
You are not. I told you that before you went abroad. I know more use for you than the fellow I threw out tonight. My precious nephew.
You can't kick me out, and you can't bully me either. Anna and I are going to get married whether you like it or not, and you can't stop us.
You've been penniless, you know.
She doesn't care, nor do I. We're independent of you.
You think so? I've something to tell you, Graham. I've just obtained control of your family business, as your solicitor will inform you. I can ruin you. I can ruin the whole lot of you, and I will.
I'm not taking it like that, you swine.
So I didn't wait any longer. I had other work to do.
And you heard nothing more?
Aye. I heard Philip Graham shout out something. I couldn't hear what he said.
Sit down, Angus.
Thank you.
You say all this happened on your way to work. But this cartridge had been fired, which proves you must have dropped it on the way back. You did come back through the garden, didn't you?
Aye, but I was making my way to the outhouse.
What for? Come on.
To pop in a couple of rabbits that I'd promised Mrs. Robson. She's a grand lady. Gave me these boots. Her brother's. Old Horder would die if he knew. But he is dead.
Did you go to the outhouse?
No, I didn't.
What stopped you?
I saw old Caleb Horder standing by the window. Then I heard a shot. And he fell down.
Did you see Mr. Graham?
I didn't wait. I done a bunk.
So you saw a man shot and you did nothing about it, eh?
Well, it was none of my business.
That's what I got to find out. Get up. Show me where you were standing.
Over there.
Come with me.
Nice impression.
Unlucky for somebody.
What's what the inspector thinks? I can't see what he's getting at myself.
I agree with the inspector.
What? Fire through a shut window without breaking the glass? It can't be done.
The inspector's got something up his sleeve. Now then, Angus, this is where you were standing when you saw Mr. Horder shot.
I wasn't standing here. I was standing over there.
Oh, were you? Check his footprints.
Excuse me, sir. Miss Gibson's here. I put her in the kitchen.
All right. Well, it matches perfectly, both of them. Just as I thought. Angus, these are your footprints. Why did you lie to me?
I didn't lie. It's the truth, I'm telling you. It's the truth. I was standing over there.
Sergeant, I want you to look for a bullet in the bookcase beside the study door.
A bullet?
You're thinking of the shot window?
Yes, sir.
Well, never mind about that. I'll be in the kitchen if you want me. Keep your eye on him.
Right, sir.
What do you think they're doing now?
Oh, how should I know?
Do you think they found out anything?
Why ask me? Oh, don't keep worrying me with your questions. Can't think what they want with me, anyway.
I don't know, miss. They're probably going to question you.
What about?
Last night. They're asking everyone a lot of questions.
So ridiculous. I wasn't even here.
Nor was Mr. Peter. He didn't come home last night. Miss Anne was awfully upset. They're engaged, you know.
Engaged? Did you say they were engaged?
Yes, miss.
I don't believe it. It can't be true.
Of course it's true. Everybody knows that.
Miss Gibson?
Yes?
All right, Lucy, I don't need you. You wait outside. Now, Miss Gibson, I'm Inspector Webb. I'm sorry to have dragged you out all this way.
Oh, that's quite all right, Inspector. Well, what do you want me for?
Just to ask you a few questions. I won't keep you long.
Very well.
Now, Miss Gibson, I want you to be quite frank with me. I understand that Peter Robson was with you last night.
Did he tell you that?
Well,
never mind. Just answer my question.
All right, then. He missed his last bus home, and he asked me if I could put him up.
And you did?
I did. I made him up a bed in the lounge.
I see. Do you live alone, Miss Gibson?
No, I live with my aunt.
Was she in bed when you got home last night?
Yes.
Do you remember if Mr. Robson telephoned here to say he couldn't get back?
He tried to, but he couldn't get through.
Oh, what time was that?
Just before I went up to bed, I should say about midnight.
And have you seen him since?
No.
So you don't know at what time he left your house?
No, I'm afraid not.
You got a bicycle, Miss Gibson?
Yes, I have.
Then he might have used it.
I don't know what you mean by
I mean
that.
that he might have cycled back here without your knowing any time after midnight. Well, he could, couldn't he?
Yes, I suppose so.
Thank you, Miss Gibson. That's all I wanted to know. You can go. Thing must be somewhere.
I doubt it. Can't see what the old man's getting at myself.
Wait a bit. What about this? Yes, what about that, Sergeant? And not so much of the old man.
No, sir.
Have it checked with the cartridge clapper found.
Yes, sir.
Well, we found the bullet, but there's something we've lost.
Yes, sir.
A pair of gum boots, Sergeant. What do you make of that?
Those from under the dresser, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll find them all right, sir. Funny thing, though. It's...
Just a moment, sir. I've examined them thoroughly, and there's no doubt about it, it's the same cartridge.
Good. Have them photographed at once. Yes, sir. Well, Sergeant, that completes my case.
Yes, sir. I wonder how our friends out there are getting on.
Who?
Yeah.
Oh, forgotten about them. Do you think they're finding it difficult?
Well, sir, there's the shut window, and the fact that everybody's been lying.
Not everybody. Miss Horder lied. She didn't tell me about that meeting with Philip Graham. And he didn't tell me about that row he had with Horder.
Angus was lying when he said he didn't stand by that tree.
A very important point, Sergeant.
Funny thing, sir. Angus didn't hear the clock strike, and Mrs. Horder heard it strike 1.
Right again. And then young Peter Robson. He said he phoned here at 1:15. Miss Gibson said it was midnight.
So he had time to get here on a bicycle.
Good for you, Sergeant. Go on, you're doing fine.
Thank you, sir. And there's Lucy?
Oh, yes, we mustn't forget Lucy, must we? Now, listen, Sergeant. I'm going to reconstruct the crime tonight. I want you to have all the suspects in here at about 12:30.
Right, sir. Have I got to be the corpse again?
I'll tell you about that later.
That's right.
There are 6 people in this room, and one of them has committed murder. If you followed the clues carefully, you will know whom I'm going to arrest. The room is in darkness because my reconstruction begins at the time when Caleb Horder came into this room after his scene with Lucy. One of you here knows the secret of what happened later. And now I'm going to recall to you the events of last night. Caleb Horder came into this room, switched on the lights, and locked the door. He must have then walked over to the window and opened it. After that, he must have gone to his desk, because we found some of his valuable miniatures spread out on his blotting pad. We must presume that about the same time, Anne Horder had slipped out of the house to meet Philip Graham, who was afterwards seen in an angry dispute with the dead man. That, according to Angus, was about 11 o'clock. Mrs. Robson, Miss Horder, and Lucy had gone to bed. The telephone rang, and someone lifted the receiver, and then replaced it without answering. Now, who did that? And why? Peter Robson tells me that he phoned this house at 1:15, but Miss Gibson told me that it was at midnight. A vital point, because between 12 and 1, someone was about to kill Caleb Horder. Now, Mrs. Robson told me that she didn't hear the telephone, but she did hear the church clock strike 1. Did she hear it? So Mrs. Robson was telling the truth. But where was the killer? In this room? Or outside here? Well, Clapper, now you know what the old man was getting at.
It's easy, sir. If I hadn't been using blank, you'd have had it.
So much for the closed window. But who fired the shot that killed Caleb Horder?
Didn't he do it? Didn't he do it?
I never said you did, Angus. You can go. Philip Graham? Your lighter. I won't want it or you anymore. And you can go with him, Miss Horder.
Thank you.
Good luck to you both.
We'll wait for you outside, Auntie.
Peter Robson.
Sorry, madam. I'm sorry I can't let you. I'll have my orders, madam.
Oh, Peter.
Tony.
Oh, Peter, I'm so sorry.
Well, what is it, Miss Gibson?
Oh, Inspector, there's something I must tell you. I lied to you. Peter couldn't have done it. I was jealous, something Lucy told me. He couldn't have caused... I don't care who knows it now. He was with me all the time.
You lied before. Why should I believe you now?
Excuse me, sir. Can I have a word with you a minute, sir? Oh, we got him, sir. Hidden in the chicken house.
Right. Do you mind, Mrs. Robson?
Yes, of course.
No, it's not. I'm afraid you've made a mistake.
I've made no mistake, Mrs. Robson. You killed Caleb Horder.
What? What do you mean?
I mean that you answered that telephone last night. You were not in your room at 1 o'clock because you were in the kitchen, cleaning the gun with which you had just killed your brother. You were wearing those gun boots. I gave you the chance to get rid of them and you took it. Mrs. Robson, I'm now going to detain you, and you will be charged later for the willful murder of Caleb Horder. And I must warn you that anything you may say...
All right, Inspector. I did it.
Mother, what are you saying? I don't believe it.
I did it for you. Be happy. I'm ready.
Oh, I'd better tell you why I first suspected Mrs. Robson, and why I became convinced that she was the guilty one. Well, first of all, the kitchen telephone. Now, Mrs. Robson told me that her niece was the last person to use it, but you must have noticed that Miss Horder used her left hand. Most people do. You can prove that for yourselves. But Mrs. Robson used her right hand, as you doubtless noticed. Now, the second definite clue were the gumboots. Having suspected Mrs. Robson, I gave her, and her only, freedom of movement, expecting that she would take the chance of hiding them once she knew that I was interested. Well, she took that chance, and that's what gave her away. Now, finally, when I questioned Peter Robson, I found that he knew the exact time of the murder. Now, only one person could know that. The one who had committed the crime. His mother. I thought she might slip up somewhere, that's why I left them together. And once more, she fell into the trap. But I had to lead young Peter Robson to believe that it was I who gave her the information about the time. As to motive, Mrs. Robson was obsessed with fear for her son's future. She wanted him to marry Anne so that he could have security. And when Caleb Horder said he was going to change his will, then she decided to kill him in cold blood. Certainly was rather a baffling mystery, but all murderers make a mistake sometime. And Mrs. Robson was no exception. You see, there's no such thing as the perfect crime. Oh, one moment. Don't tell your friends who did it. Let them guess for themselves, as you did. Did you?
Greetings. We hope you enjoy watching Hastings Mystery Theater and the film you just viewed. Randall Schaefer, his wife Judy and program manager Dan LeClaire combined efforts to bring these productions to you, free of charge and almost always without ads. We love seeing the comments you leave about our movies in the comments section under each video production. This means so much to us. Also, Randall appreciates receiving and responding to your many emails. Thank you, viewers, for liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss an upload. Blessings to you from Hastings, Michigan, USA.
Come closer. I want to talk to you again. I want to tell you of a story more mysterious than the Maltese Falcon. An adventure more dangerous than across the Pacific. An amazing tale of desperate people clashing against a background to danger, where life is cheap and the stakes are high. An astounding story of violence, intrigue, and treachery, where every man is someone's enemy, every woman in someone's pay. You'll meet a fascinating woman of mystery on a perilous mission, a fearless two-fisted American adventurer, a sinister master of espionage, an enticing provocateur. And you'll meet me.
Who are you, anyway?
Between the eyes is a good place, Mr. Barton. It's quick and sure.
You're a marked man. You're wanted for murder.
Curious touch of the grotesque. A dead man on the floor. A condemned one sitting before me. And a Strauss waltz as the funeral march.
Please consider leaving us your thoughts in the comment section, as well as giving this video a like, and subscribing to our channel. Also, check out the link in the description below. Click the link to enjoy a free bonus Hastings Mystery Theater episode. Thanks again for your kind support that enables us to continue bringing you these great old classic black and white movies.